Dollar with another 60-point effort. Portland, Kill name a street after him or something. Maybe even a high school, IDK. But dude, got to get illuminated. LOL. Wow.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today, there's only the one game on, but there were some interesting things and some disheartening things to happen in that one game. So we're going to talk about all of that and then preview the 12 games for Wednesday. Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed, and we will start and finish on the daily recaps with the only game on, the Clippers and the Mavericks. The Clippers get the win on the road, 110-107. In the end, there was no Paul George, and the Clippers also lost Patrick Beverley with a groin soreness issue. That you think that's going to have to cost him Wednesday's game as well, but we'll have to see, though. It had no Paul George, as I mentioned. The fun guy, Kawhi Leonard.
I'm a fun guy.
Struggled with his shot a little bit in this one. Barely hit a three. In fact, only hit one, and that was right at the end. But 1 of 9 for 3. 36 and 11, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 92% from the line on 12 attempts. He is a little bit of a sell high guy, just because when George returns, it's going to have an impact on him. But also, you always get the inevitable injury risk, the back-to-back sitting, which, again, I still think there'll be one back-to-back he plays this season for no reason really whatsoever. But I do think that will happen. But there is still a risk there. So if you can get a top 5-ish guy back, it might be tough to do. But I'd be looking to do that with him. It was also a great game from Landry Shamet, 18 points with 5 triples, but with Beverley going down, barely seeing Mo Harkless and no Paul George, he had to step up. He did, but we should only be viewing him as a 3-point streamer and not any sort of 12-team must-add guy. Lou Williams had 16, 5 and 4 with a steal and a block, while Montrezl Harrell was pretty quiet to start off, and in fact his efficiency was off all game. Ended with 28 minutes, 12 and 9 with 2 steals. There was a portion in the first half, almost at halftime, when him and Zubats had almost the same minutes, and then he pulled away in that second half. Zubats 9 and 9 in 19 minutes. I am a little bit worried about Harrell and what happens with him at the trade deadline and with his role. There are definite concerns with his game, but then he has those offensive type explosion performances or the big rebounding nights. Really looks really good. I mentioned Harkless. He did play through that sore back, only 9 minutes in a start, which is pretty disappointing from him. He and Jermichael Green and Scooter Magruder, they're not really fantasy options outside of very, very deep leagues. Now, on to the Dallas Mavericks, and let's start with the Dwight Powell injury. He is done for the season, almost guaranteed. That's a 99.9% chance, I reckon, that he is cooked. He went to push off, and the Achilles just blew up. The fact that the Mavs immediately ruled him out for the game and said it's an Achilles injury, they didn't say it's a torn Achilles. All the whispers going around that it is a torn Achilles. It looked for all money like a torn Achilles, and we have to assume that Powell is done for the season. If you want to wait for confirmation before dropping him, I understand that. I think it's a fairly good chance that he is cooked, which is a real issue for the Mavericks, and it's really bad for Powell. Obviously, he might be ready a month or so into next season would be my guess. That's terrible news for him. The question then is, who fills the void? Well, JJ Barea started the second half. He only played the 8 minutes in that role, scored 3 points. They moved Kristaps Porzingis to center. Which is really what they should be doing anyway. Whether this gives them the impetus to do it or not remains to be seen. They could put Delon Wright into the starting lineup. They could put Barea into the starting lineup. They could put Maxi Kleber into the starting lineup. And regardless of what happens, Kleber is going to be the biggest beneficiary. 32 minutes here, 8 and 5 with 2 blocks. His value, it's so much tied to blocks. And what we've seen from him in general, last year, decently high block rate. This year, low block rate. When Porzingis was out, the block rate went back up. So if they're going to start together, that is a bit of a concern, but he still had the 2 blocks here, so that's encouraging. I think he is a 12-team league ad. Not everyone, a lot of you out there are going to be screaming the name of Boban Marjanovic, who played 16 minutes here, had 12 and 7 with 2 blocks. Boban, great bloke, no doubt. But there have been time and time again in the past where opportunities have opened up for Boban, and everyone's, all he needs is 22 minutes, and he's a must-add guy. He just never gets it. He just can't get that because of the significant defensive problems that he causes when he's on the court. Stamina is a slight issue as well. We know he's a permanent monster, but he's one of those guys that will never get those minutes. Now, I say this, and he had 12 and 7 with 2 blocks in 16 minutes, which is absolutely 12-team valuable. Do I trust that every night? No. The other thing we have to pay attention to here is that Porzingis wasn't at his best, only played the 27 minutes. And if we go back to look what Boban did when KP was out, it wasn't anywhere near enough to be a 12-team league guy. So we look at, okay, one front court guy was out. That was Porzingis. Boban really didn't do much. The next front court guy goes out, Powell. Boban's probably not going to do too much in that role either. He's not going to be playing 25 minutes a night. He's not going to be starting and playing 30 minutes a night. He might play 17 some night. He might play 12 some night. He was dominating Montrezl Harrell when he was out there, not surprising, but it's just not going to be something that happens all the time for Boban, I don't think. So I would prioritize Kleber over him. Many of you are going to go and add him, and many people in many leagues are going to go and add Boban, mainly because of this line. But again, when we look at it, through a logical mind frame, again, looking back at when Porzingis was out, what happened? Because, not theoretically, actually, Porzingis and Powell, they're interchangeable in that front court. One's the center, one's the power forward. It doesn't really matter. One guy goes out, and then the other power forward center, Maxi Kleber, comes in, and then Boban comes in, and you shift those guys around. They can all play all those positions. So when Porzingis was out, we didn't see big minutes from Boban. And when Powell's out, I think it's going to be fairly similar. You'll get a few extra minutes pushing up for Finney-Smith, who's not a great fantasy option. He had 8 and 6 with 2 threes, a steal and a block. An absolutely fine 14-team league guy. You might get some extra minutes. As I said, maybe it's Delon. Maybe it's Timmy Hardaway who takes somewhat of a step up. But Powell wasn't a guy that was built on usage. So it's a little bit different in that respect in terms of looking at the impact from Powell's injury versus Porzingis' injury. It's terrible news, obviously, for Powell and Dallas. This could change them. Looking at trade in multiple. Oh man, Andre Drummond's got to go there now. But that would also mean that Dallas has to give up stuff to get Drummond. They're not just. Well, he doesn't just come for free. They could potentially just get him in the offseason for free. So what are the assets they're giving up? Does adding Drummond in over Kleber equal a win when you consider what you have to send out to bring him in? And I'm not sure it does. There are lots of names who could be out there who could be available for trade. Maybe it's Alex Len, maybe Aaron Baines, someone suggested to me as well. There are lots of centers will be out there, but it all depends what you have to give up to get him or to get that other big man in there. There are got Alex Len's probably the cheapest one to bring in, and maybe he could fill a role in this team. But there is obviously a gaping chasm now where Powell was that they're going to have to step it up. But again, they did manage without Porzingis, different player, but still a big man in the front court, by moving Finney-Smith and getting minutes from Justin Jackson, who didn't play at all weirdly in this one, getting Kleber in there, 10, 12 minutes of Boban, 15 minutes of Boban, whatever it is. All those things can happen. Doncic had 36, 10, and 9. The free throws an issue again, 64% on 14 attempts. That's really, really negative there. While the burner, Jalen Brunson, had 2 steals in 14 minutes, and Porzingis 10 and 9 in his return. Obviously, he's going to be better than that. He shot 24% from the field, and Timmy Hardaway, not the greatest from him, missed that 3 at the end. 13 points with 3 threes in 30 minutes. Still a solid points and threes type of a guy at the back end of your roster. Let's have a look at some injury news now before we get into some DFS action. Reggie Jackson could be returning for the Pistons tomorrow. Not a 12-team league ad. That's a 16-team option there. Maybe you look at him. And then, of course, the Powell Achilles injury and the Beverly groin issue are things that did happen today, unfortunately. Fortunately for you, though, if you are the type of fan who knows their sport, their football, their basketball, MyBookie is the place for you. They let you turn all of your sports knowledge into cash in your wallet. Football, playoffs, the Super Bowl, sorry, not even playoffs, the Super Bowl, the NBA, college basketball. It's time to get off the sidelines and get in on the action with MyBookie. If you're that type of bloke who likes to bet a little to win a lot, try a parlay. For instance, if you like a couple of the big favorites this week, parlays are perfect because they let you bet multiple games together for a much bigger payout. So if you're going to bet this season, do the smart thing and go to mybookie.ag because no one gives you more ways to win. If you join right now, MyBookie will match your deposit halfway, all the way up to $1,000. That means if you deposit $2,000, you will get an extra $1,000 in free money to play with. Just use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA to activate the offer. Once again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNBA to take advantage of MyBookie's generous sign-up offer. Visit mybookie.ag today. You play, you win, and you get paid. We talk about physical fitness a lot. There's another side to the game that's just as important, and I'm talking about mental fitness. Calm, the #1 app for sleep and meditation, has teamed up with LeBron James to help train your mind. LeBron and Calm know that your mind is like any other muscle in your body, and Calm can help you train your brain so you sleep better, have less stress, and perform at your best. I have Calm on my phone. Love it. It's been fantastic over the last couple of weeks since I've had it. For LeBron, sleep is an important part of his mental fitness routine. He says, getting good sleep and finding time to rest is one of the most valuable things I can do for my body and mind. And if you head to calm.com/LockedOnNBA, you get 40% off a Calm premium membership. With Calm, you have access to the nature scenes LeBron loves and so much more, like sleep stories and meditations. For a limited time, our listeners can join LeBron in using Calm with a 40% discount to an annual membership at calm.com/LockedOnNBA. Get started at calm.com/LockedOnNBA. Unlock content to help you focus, ease stress, and sleep better. That's calm.com/LockedOnNBA. Now, let's move over to talk some DFS action and full transparency here. The DFS portion of the show was recorded earlier in the day before the Patrick Beverley news. So when I talk about the Clippers, I say Beverley's in a good spot. Now I think we have to assume that he doesn't play in that game on Wednesday. So the projections are all updated on Basketball Monster, but that gives a massive boost to Lou Williams, to Harrell, Shamet, gets a little bit of a boost in that situation. JaMychal Green, another option there as well. All right, the first game on this Big 12 game Wednesday in the NBA, the Sacramento Kings and the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons are 1.5-point favorites here, and the total is, Richie Beno?
2 for 222.
Yes, it's 222. Reggie Jackson might be back. He's been upgraded to questionable. Andre Drummond is also questionable after cutting his lip at the end of the last game, while Markieff Morris is probable in this one with a toe issue. For Sacramento, Richaun Holmes remains out. At point guard, the Shark, Bruce Brown,
Baby shark,
has really been disappearing. Tim Frazier is out of this game, which is only a good thing for anybody who enjoys basketball. But Jackson returning, what's that going to do for Brown's value? It puts a bit of a cramp on it. I'm not massively high on him here. De'Aaron Fox is at 83 because he has been crushing it. Now, last game wasn't so good for Fox, but averaging 49 over his last 5. I think he's at least worth looking at here. Jackson's a minimum salary player. Could he do it? Probably not, but it's minimum salary. He's not going to be playing big minutes. Let's forget it. Let's just move on from him. Derrick Rose at 7,000. Love what he's been doing. Really, really strong floor value with Griffin and Kennard out. And then if Drummond goes, Rose is going to have even more opportunity, so I do like Dez quite a bit there. Lanks Galloway, 3,700, probably not. At shooting guard, Bogdanovic is at 5,300. I don't really like that one, while Bud Hield dropped 51 in the last game. He's at 6,800. It's a pretty aggressive price for Hield. I don't dislike it completely, but he's definitely not a must-roster guy. At small forward, Sekou Doumbia, 4,600, has not been at that level, so I would leave him alone. The pencil, Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. He's at 5,400. Now, he's averaging 24 points a game, which is not far off that mark, but I still don't think that he's really a great option here. Kent Bazemore also likely to make his debut for Sacramento. I just don't really see enough minutes there for him. For your big men, Bagley's at 6,500. Love that one. He had 39 last game, and it's a really, really strong matchup. Even Yeonmi Hinmi had a big game against the Pistons, so Bagley's in a good spot. While Andre Drummond's at 9,400. He should be a 50 guy if he plays. We just don't know at this point, so that gives you a little bit of pause, more maybe for tournaments with Drummo. Here in this one, Christian Wood, the Crucifix at 4,000, would become an absolute guarantee must-lock, must-roster player in the situation where Drummond is out. But of course, at this point, we don't know that. Markieff would also come into play with Drummo out at 4,200. Let us flip it over now. The next game, we've got the Oklahoma City Thunder. We've got the Orlando Magic. Both Nerlens Noel and Steve Adams are questionable. Now, of course, if Adams is out and Noel plays, his value goes up. If Noel is out, Muscala slips into that role. If both of those blokes are out, then Muscala starts. You probably get a bit of Justin Patton at the back end. Terrence Ferguson also out, so you're going to get Luguentz Dort most likely starting again.
Bort? Oh, come on, Bort? Mommy, buy me a license plate!
No, come along, Bort.
Are you talking to me?
No, my son is also named Bort.
he's not much of a DFS option. They also might go with MC Hamadou Diallo in that spot. At point guard, Markelle Fultz is at 6,000. I really like his floor value. It is a high price for Fultzy, but I do like the floor there. Carter Williams at 35, no thank you. While Gilgeous-Alexander is at 72, also a really high floor. He's a lowest score in his last 5 has been 36 points. Shea, I love Chris Paul at 73 as well, who's also been absolutely rolling. Well, Dennis Schroeder's at 6,000. Out of those three guys, Paul and Shea, I would have over Schroeder. At shooting guard, Fournier's at 5,700. Really like that value. He dropped 40 last game, and there's ample opportunities for him to score. Same with Terry Ross at 52. Actually, this is one of those rare instances where I look at Ross and go, 52, he's got a not bad floor value, so he could be a cash guy, which is not something you say very often for him. At small forward, Aaron Gordon's at 59. He has not been good, averaging just 25 over the last 3. He has in the past really done well against OKC. The salary is low enough to take a flyer on him, especially for tournaments, while the Italian cock, Danilo Gallinari,
hands off my cock!
He is at 6,900. That is 6,900 for those of you playing along at home.
Giggity!
He's also cracking it at the moment. Really like his value. The matchup is a marginal positive going against the Magic, but in general, their defense can be something that is quite negative. The Weza Wundu situation, he's not going to play enough minutes for us to care. Nikola Vucevic, 8,300. Love him for 40 points. Really strong, while Adams at 63 is too high. Then you go Bumber at 34 and Noel at 44. Nerlens Noel at 44 is the absolute... It's almost... Is it a bigger no-brainer than Christian Wood if Drummond is out? It's pretty bloody close. But both of those guys are going to have absolutely massive value if their respective starting centers both sit out this game. Next up, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors are 6-point favorites. The total is 218.5. The last few games, Nick Nurse has been able to sit his guys and play them like 29, 30 minutes. Not sure he's going to have that opportunity here, so we might be back to 40 Kyle Lowry minutes and 38 Siakam and 37 Van Vliet and big Gasol minutes. Who knows exactly what he's going to do, but this one you'd think they're going to have to push a little bit more to get the win. Of course, Joel Embiid is still sidelined. Freddie Van Vliet's at 6,600. I love that price for Fred. He should be a 30-point guy at worst and then push up into the 40s if possible. Benny Simmons also 93. Unbelievable numbers without Embiid. One of the biggest cash locks on the slate, I think. Anything under 10,000 for Simmons at the moment is a good option. While Lowry has dropped all the way down to 6,600, and that should absolutely pique your interest. Yes, his numbers recently have fallen off a bit. He's still averaging 37 over the last 5, and if the shots fall, he is a great GPP option at that sort of a price. Hull Neto, Terrence Davis, Paddy McCaw, no. At shooting guard, Joshy Richardson's at 61. We can do better. The painter Matisse Thybulle and Furkan Korkmaz, we can also do better. While Stormer Norman Powell is up to 5,700. That's because he's averaging 35 in his last 5 and just seems to be really unstoppable. I have concerns that the shot won't go in at the same level against this quality defense. So I reckon Norm might be a bit of a fade here. Toby Harris is up to 73. Too high for me, while the Jedi OG Anunoby,
Hello there.
he's at 4,200. No. James Ennis, Rondé Hollis Jefferson. Rondé's been putting up good numbers. 28 last game, 3,900. Maybe as a GPP guy, probably not. But the recent production has been impressive. At center, or the big man spots in general, Pascal Siakam's at 6,900. He hasn't been at that level, but that's still a really good price, and I think we have to look at him at that salary. Ibaka, no thank you. And then Marc Gasol.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Now, Gasol doesn't have Embiid to torment in this one, but he's still at 4,800, at least marginally interesting. I do like Al Horford at 68 a little bit more, but both of those guys aren't really strong DFS options given their price points and given the other options that are around. Next game, we look at the Clippers, we look at the Hawks. The Clippers, the only team on this slate playing a back-to-back, so we've got to assume that Kawhi Leonard will not play in this one. We don't know the status of Paul George. He's sitting out on Tuesday. I would imagine he doesn't play in this one as well on Wednesday, so that's going to give ample opportunities for the table, Montrezl Harrell, for Lou Williams, for Pat Beverly, Landry Shamet, maybe Mo Harkless, even JaMychal Green. Lots of opportunities for different players here on this squad. At point guard, Alex Len, he's been upgraded to questionable for the Hawks. At point guard, Beverly's at 54. I love this opportunity. A 30-point guy feels pretty safe to say that, with both Kawhi and Paul George unlikely to play. Trae Young's at 9,500. He's just doing that every day without really any concern. While Lou Williams could absolutely drop a 50 in this one. He's at 7,300. He should go absolutely bananas. I like him a lot. Jeff Teague had 3 points last game. I wouldn't want to go back onto that one. Paulie George is at 88, but I don't really care. I don't think he's going to play. While Pants is at 5,300. Kevin Huerter, hard to get invested in him at that salary in a pretty tough matchup. Cam Reddish is at 45, averaging 28 over the last 3. Steals and threes. That's exactly what Reddish does, and it's working out for him at the moment. I wouldn't say he's a safe floor guy, but he's almost moving towards that area. Probably still not a good DFS option. While Shamet at 38, maybe you take a flyer in a GPP if both the fun guy and the Beetle are ruled out. At small forward, Mo Harkless is at 3,900. I just feel sad because Mo Wagner's been out for so long, so someone else has to take the song. 3,900. He can have occasionally good games, but I'm not really that interested. Well, DeAndre Hunter's playing a lot better. At 4,700, I don't mind him. I still think we can do better than that. For your big men, the table, Harrell, 6,800, has not been anywhere near that level, but this is a matchup where he could absolutely dominate, so I like him. The Baptist John Collins at 71 is a stellar price. Like him a lot. Alex Leonard's tough to trust. Ivica Zubats at 41, probably not. Bruno Fernando also not going to be all that interesting for me. Next game. Well, that's the wrong one. Let's look at the next one. It is the Memphis Grizzlies. It is the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are 7-point favorites. The total is 233. Kemba Walker is probable. Jaylen Brown is questionable. They're the two major injuries here, of course. Kemba likely to play. Jaylen, we're not sure. He's sort of been in and out of the lineup. At point guard, 7,400 for Kemba. I think it's okay going up against Ja Morant, especially if Jalen's out. I like Kemba a little bit more. He's not my best point guard on the slate. While Marcus Smart at 5,700, if Jalen is out, he should step into that 30-point zone and really be able to produce. As for Morant at 7,600, his numbers are up at the moment, averaging 35 minutes over the last 3 games, 41 DraftKings points in that time, which is really strong. Now, this matchup's a negative for him, so I'd probably just ease off. Same with the wave pool, D'Anthony Melton and Brad Wanamaker, not really going to do it for me. Jalen's at 6,700, and despite his shooting foibles, he's actually been producing at a decently high level, 38 over the last 3, which at 67 would work. If we knew that he was playing, then that would be a good option. While Dylan Brooks is on fire, his salary has consequently risen to 6,200. He's always a guy that scares me shitless because of his propensity to just jack shots and jack long twos, and they're going in, and they've been going in for the last 3 or 4 weeks, but they weren't for the first 2 months. That's a real risk with using him, and when he doesn't do massive amounts in other areas, that does put a little bit of a dent in your floor, maybe just for tournaments for Brooksy. For your small forward, Gordy Hayward at 58, I really like that. That's a safe-ass cash play. Well, Jay Crowder.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
Yeah, he is all over the shop, so that's going to be a strong no from me. For your bigs, Jace Tatum, 7,500. Love it. Really good floor. Decent upside. Good spot. Vanilla Tice at 49, probably not, while Jonas Valanciunas at 67. The Celtics have defended against centers okay so far this season, but I don't think that necessarily makes Valanciunas a great play. Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. is at 65, probably more of a tournament guy there for him, while Cantor was really good against the Lakers. Not sure it will necessarily be the same here, but at 4,500 with 30-plus upside, yeah, again, it's a tournament option, but not the greatest one out there. Let us move on now. The next game up for us to take a look at the Lakers and the Knicks. The Lakers are 11-point favorites. The total is 224. Real blowout potential here in this game. Rajon Rondo and Anthony Davis are both listed as probable after playing last game, so that's something to note. While Marcus Morris and Dennis Smith are both questionable, as is the Duke Wayne Allington. At point guard, Alfred Payton's at 56. Numbers for him have been pretty good. I like that price. I think Payton's a good option here. While LeBron James at 10-8.
LeBron James.
He's almost a 50 guy most nights, and the only thing that would steer me away from LeBron here is the blowout risk. Rondo's at 41. That's going to be a no there, while Caruso and Ntilikina similarly. Reggie Bullock's at 4,200. There is no Rowan Barrett. There might be no Marcus Morris, so he could get hot and drop a 30. That makes Bullock a GPP sort of a guy. Caldwell Pope and Bradley, not for me. At small forward, Morris is at 58. Really like that if he plays. We just don't know at this stage. And Dan Green at 4,000 would be a fade. Kevin Knox and Kyle Kuzma similarly. For your bigs, Randall's at 7,600. Not the greatest matchup for big men, going up against Davis and McGee and Howard. But Randall at that sort of a price, I think still has value. While Mitchie Robinson at 4,700. I reckon we might just throw him into the tournaments only. And even then, not a strong one. Tone Davis at 9,900. He should be able to dominate this team, but I think they might keep his minutes pretty low in this one, so that might be one to fade off of. While Dwight's at 45, a little bit hard to trust him with Davis back and the uncertainty with those minutes. And the same thing goes with McGee. Next game up we take a look at is the Washington Wizards, the Miami Heat. No spread for this one. Jimmy Butler is likely back. Goran Dragic is probable with the knee, while Dunk Robinson, the Spur, is questionable with an ankle injury. For Washington, Onzej Pasechniks is questionable. Rui Hachimura still sidelined, as is Flaming Mo Wagner. Isaiah Thomas is at 3,400. He's the starting point guard, but that shouldn't mean anything, so don't use him. While Jordy McRae's at 47, really just tournaments at this point. His production has dropped off. I like Kendrick Nunn a lot, 6,100 in this one, putting up 36 a night, really benefiting from the hero injury and big opportunities, and the fact that he's playing really well, that's working in his favour. Goran Dragic at 59 is too high, while Ish Smith at 48, not a bad cash guy, but I'm not really sure that he is much of an upside player. Beal's at 72, and we got the minutes over 30 last game, and he dropped almost 40 points, and at 7,200, that's great. So I don't mind him here. I think Jim Butler at 85 is maybe a little bit too high with how he's been treating things this season. Tyler Hero, not enough minutes. Dunk Robinson, not a good DFS guy. Small forward, you've got Troy Brown, who is losing touches in this Wizards team, getting healthy, so he's a no. Isaac Bonga similarly. And then on to your big man, Tom Bryant, the tank at 4,500. He did have 22 points in 22 minutes last game, so that's getting closer. If we hear that he's starting at center, I'd be a lot more interested in using the tank there. While Bam Bam Adebayo at 84, a really strong situation for him. He's a 40-point plus guy most nights. I think he is a relatively safe guy. Davis Bertans at 5,000. Myers Leonard, Mahinmi, Pasechniks, James Johnson. Johnson had 40 points last game. I'm not getting sucked into using him here in this one. On to the next game. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Chicago Bulls. The spread is even. It's a pick'em. The total is 219. Of course, Larry Markkinen, Ryan Archer, Jack and Owen, Chandler Hutchison are all probable for the Chicago Bulls. Minnesota are without Jake Layman again. Not even sure if that bloke's alive at this point. At point guard, Thomas Satoransky, 4,900. They're really limiting him for some God knows reason. I got no idea. I'd fade off of him. Same with Chris Dunn, despite him having 30 last game. Shabazz Napier at 51. Limited upside, strong floor. He's giving us 24, 25 a night, which at 51 is okay. Ryan Archer, Jack, no God no. At shooting guard, Wiggins, 6,700. Probably just tournaments. Not interested otherwise. Levine at 9,000. Love it. Wasn't quite on his game last time with 38, but prior to that, he was averaging 47. Really strong on Levine here. Jarrett Culver at 5,000 was also pretty bad last game against Denver, but this is a bit of a different situation for Culves. I think he's more of a tournament guy than anything else. Josh Okogie's at 41. Hey, he's giving us 20 a night pretty consistently, so I do think that Okogie is someone we can look at, not with a great high upside. Onto your small forwards. Bob Covington's at 59. I don't really see the value in him there. Chandler Hutchison or Keita Bates-Diop similarly. At centre, Townsy's at 10-4. It should be an absolute feast for him, while Markkinen at 57. Just been so bad lately, but he can easily beat that number. I just don't think I'd want to take the risk. I would on Thad Young at 5,000. He can easily get to 30, which is good value at that spot. And then you got Jeng and Felicio and Cornette, whose minutes have been trending down significantly. Luke Cornett's and had just 15 minutes in the last game. The next one we look at, the Houston Rockets and the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets are without Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Paul Millsap, and Mason Plumlee, while Austin Rivers is questionable for the Rockets. At point guard, Monty Morris is at 4,800. I don't mind him here. He had 27 last game. Really an interesting option in a matchup, which is a positive, while James Harden's at 11-2. Has not been quite at that level, but the shot's just also not falling. If it falls, he'll smash through that number. Probably more for tournaments, but he's never a horrible cash guy. While Westbrook's at 98, absolutely love what Westbrook's doing, averaging 67 points over the last 3 games. Farden Will Barton's at 74. He was apparently dealing with an illness before last game, so that's a little bit of a concern with using him. At shooting guard, Gordon's at 44 and McLemore's at 35. I don't care for them, nor Torrey Craig or PJ Dozier. While Malik Beasley at 47. It's really hard to trust what's happening in the minutes department, and that's probably a bit high of a salary. Gotta love Mick Porter, but he is up to 6,600. That's because he dropped 49 last game, and there's going to be ample opportunities with Jeremy Grant playing a lot more center, so more power forward minutes are available for Porter. He's not a complete write-off because he's not a complete lock because there is an element of risk with how Malone uses him. But with 4 guys out, they're almost forced to use him. So I do think that 66 he looks pretty decent here. Danhouse and Jared Vanderbilt, who's probably going to get some minutes for the Nuggets, probably not going to use them. Capella's at 7,500, hasn't really been there. I'd probably leave him off. PJ Tucker, no. Jeremy Grant at 56. I think that's a little bit too high for Granty, while Big Chungus is at 9,200. Nikola Jokic, he should be a 45-point guy on most nights, so I'm big on Jokic at that sort of a salary. The next one we take a look at here is, which one is it? We are looking at the Indiana Pacers and the Phoenix Suns. Aaron Baines is out. Cameron Johnson is questionable for Phoenix. Aaron Holiday's also popped up as being questionable, the thumb issue for the Pacers. This is also a pick'em, and the total is 221.5. Brogdon's at 71. They got spanked last game by the Jazz, the Pacers, so a lot of averages are down because of that. I think he's not a bad guy to look at here at that marginally depressed salary, while Timothy John McConnell might get some extra minutes if Holiday's out, but I don't think he's a great play. While Booker at 87, one of the best plays on the slate, I think, for Devon at that salary. Ravishing Rick Rubio at 77, also not a bad option, but I will take the extra 1,000. I will spend the extra 1,000 actually and take Booker there pretty comfortably. McCall Bridges at 46. Looked like he had a bit of an arm issue last game, but he's fine. He's not on the injury report. While Justin Holiday got it done with a million defensive stats. Hard to trust either of those guys. Jeremy Lamb's at 46. I would like Lamb if Holiday was out. That would push him up a bit, but still not super confident in him. And then at small forward, Tony Warren Jr.'s at 55. I think his bounce back is going to come for him, so I like that. While Oubre's at 7,000. Maybe a smidge too high against a team that does defend wings at a pretty good rate. Saric and McDermott, not guys that we need to be looking too highly at. Like DeAndre Ayton, though. He's at 8,600. He should be a 40-plus guy pretty comfortably. Really like that. While Sabonis is at 79. Look, he's a bit up and down at the moment. The last game against Gobert didn't help. I think there's a good bounce-back opportunity here for Sabonis, so I do think he's not terrible. While 5,000 for Miles Turner should put him absolutely in your tournament zone. That is a really cheap price for Turner. He had 30 last game. Yes, it came with 6 steals. But he could also come out and have 5 blocks and really beat that number. So he's a tournament guy, but really nothing more than that. The next game up, getting towards the end of these, we've got the San Antonio Spurs and the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion Williamson will return 20 minutes, 25 minutes. We don't really know. They're claiming no minutes limit for him. Drew Holiday is also probable. JJ Redick is probable, while Derek Favors and Josh the Hitman Hart are questionable. So a lot of things that can be really weird here for the Pels. For the Spurs, or for the point guards, in fact, DeJounte Murray's at 5,200. Even in the limited minutes, he's still getting 28 a night. I think he's a good tournament guy here, while Holiday at 81. Probably a marginally bit too high, just we don't know how the fit's going to be with Zion. A little bit too high. Same with Lonzo at 68, although I'd rather save the 1,300 and take a flyer on a GPP on Lonzo here. Patty Mills, Bryn Forbes, Derek White, Maximum Derek, who's been playing pretty well. I just don't have any faith in those guys. At shooting guard, DeRozan's at 82. Love the floor value in DeMar. Even when the shot hasn't fallen the last 2 games, he's getting rebounds and assists, so he looks pretty good. Redick's at 41. That's a no from me. Etuan Moore similarly. Via small forwards, Gay's at 41. No. Brandon Ingram at 89. Now that's the risk there, was what's going to happen with Zion back with Ingram. That's a real stretch for me at 89, maybe just for tournaments. And then you go into the big men. Aldridge at 6,800, love it. Derek Favors at 67, not sure he's going to play. And then Zion comes in at 5,000. I think you've got to at least throw him into a tournament at that price. That is not a high price for Zion Williamson. If he plays 25 minutes, I think he'll beat that pretty comfortably. We just don't know at this stage. But there is some very, very, very real value in that salary for Zion Williamson at 5,000 on DraftKings. The last game of the day, the Utah Jazz and the Golden State Warriors. This could be an absolute bloodbath. Draymond Green is not on the injury report, so he should be back. Rudy Gobert is probable. Glennie Robinson is probable, while Jacob Evans with that concussion issue is questionable. At point guard, Draymond, 5,700. Yeah, that's not a bad price for Green, but we can do a lot better. D'Angelo Russell at 8,000. I like that quite a bit, while the Donovan Mitchell's at 78.
He's Don. He's good.
I think we can find a better option than that. Jordan Clarkson isn't it, nor is Mike Conley at 47 as they slowly ramp his minutes up. Jingle and Joe's at 5,300. The blowout factor is going to limit a lot of the value in a lot of these players. Or Damian Lee's at 58. That's just way too high for a guy like Damo Lee. At small forward, Royce O'Neal's at 4,000. No thanks. Bojan Bogdanovic at 6,000. Again, the blowout is too high of a risk for me. And then at center, or at the big man spots, Rudy Gobert at 85. Absolutely crunching at the moment. That is a very high salary in a blowout risk game. So I probably would steer clear. While Cauley Stein at 5,000, again, a little bit tough to trust him. Same with Spellman or Bradley. This is a real avoid game, I think, for DFS. If we have a look now over on FanDuel at some options, Bagley and Monty Morris I like, Don Mitchell, Thad Young, Cauley Stein, Bud Hield, some value in those guys. Joshy Richardson, Markel Fultz, Aaron Gordon, Zion again's at 45 on FanDuel, Townsy, Benny Simmons, Kendrick Nunn, giving us some value over there as well. That's it for today's show, guys. Subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, and give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Evan Turner.